Betsy, this is a very broad request for records. It is all due in 2 weeks' time. How do you see this playing out?
This is going to drive former President Trump crazy. It's the kind of document that has such sweeping language and is looking to hoover up so much information that what I expect is that he and his lawyers are going to say that they are going to oppose it hook, line, and sinker and try to make a claim of executive privilege to keep any of these materials from going to Congress. If that happens, then it's possible the committee will hit a major roadblock that could slow it down for a significant amount of time if they have to sue and go to court to try to extract some of these materials from the executive branch. So that's the first big thing we're looking at here. In addition, the language in this request for documents includes some lines that are likely to really frustrate the president, not just because of what they're looking for, but because of the concerns they raise. There's one phrase that talks about looking for documents and communications related to former President Trump's mental stability and fitness for office. That's the kind of thing that's likely to result in the former president becoming absolutely irate and pushing back even harder against this select committee and corralling his Republican allies on Capitol Hill to join him in being just as resistant as possible to these efforts.
Devlin, I just want to read a little bit of how the committee described its records request. This is what they are asking for from the National Archives. Executive branch records pertaining to strategies and plans to derail the Electoral College vote count, planning for and coordination of the rallies leading up to January 6th, the former president's knowledge of the election results and what he communicated to the American people about the election, potential plans to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power and challenge the validity of the 2020 elections. Devlin, you have done so much crucial reporting on this. What are they going to find when they look through these records?
Well, I think what they're going to find is some of which we already know, the degree to which the president was quietly, even as he was loudly pushing publicly to challenge some of these states' election totals. He was also quietly working behind the scenes to try to find allies within the government that would back up his arguments and back up what he was trying to accomplish. Now, we know that occurred at the Justice Department. We've seen some of the notes from those conversations. And I think there will be more to understand in terms of particulars about that. Mm-hmm. But I also think what they're trying to do is see to what degree is there a line that can be drawn from those efforts to January 6th. That's obviously a hugely important question that I think a lot of folks want the fullest answer possible.
Right. And who is going to be implicated as those lines are drawn? Olivia, communications about basically everyone in Trump's world is covered under this request. You worked inside the administration. Who's going to be of interest to the committee once these documents are in their hands?
Well, certainly the chiefs of staff, both for the president and the vice president. I think those will be critical key players in understanding what communications happened and what communication happened between the president's staff and the vice president's staff while the vice president's basically sitting in the Capitol, under threat by his own president, I would say. But also just what did and didn't happen. So when they were communicating, if they were communicating, what were they saying? And what were they doing in the timeline leading up to it? So while this is happening at the Capitol, while this insurrection is taking place, while people are getting hurt and attacked, what do these messages say? And where is the direction for response? Is there a response? Is there talking to DOD? What are they saying at this moment? Are they upset? Are they appalled? Or is it complete dereliction of duty by everyone involved in this situation, where they're just hands off and they're just going to let it happen because it just amplifies their message of these people that they are their supporters?